Bootstrap was created by the developers at Twitter back in 2011. And just like it says in big bright letters on its homepage, Bootstrap is the most popular HTML, CSS, and JavaScript framework in the world for building responsive mobile-first projects on the web. Over 7 million apps and sites across the web are built using Bootstrap. Many web designers, front-end developers, and programmers use Bootstrap to help them build projects faster and easier. Even popular companies and agencies like NASA, FIFA, Spotify, and Lyft use Bootstrap in their websites. So let's take a closer look. You learned that Bootstrap is a front-end framework. So what exactly does that mean? A framework is a reusable platform that helps you build higher-level projects without worrying about the lower-level repetitive details. For instance, when building a website or app, you'll want to have a presentable layout that works on most devices and screen sizes. In the layout, you may have lots of UI components, like navbars, buttons, headers, forms, modals, and more. Many of these components will appear in different places of the site or app. So instead of creating your own custom solution for each of these, you can use a framework like Bootstrap as an out-of-the-box solution for implementing your layout and components in little to no time. In other words, a front-end framework solves many of the common layout, typography, and browser compatibility problems from the start, so you can simply focus on your content or design. To view the latest documentation for Bootstrap, visit getbootstrap.com. Now, as I'm recording this video, I'm using the alpha release of Bootstrap 4, the newest version of the Bootstrap framework. So that means that it may not contain all of the features that are planned for the final version, and the documentation, along with the functionality of the components, could change at any time. The documentation you're seeing may look different than mine, and that's okay. That just means you're working with a more recent version of the Bootstrap documentation. The layout, content, and component styles should still work the same way. And be sure to check the teacher's notes of each video, as they'll have up-to-date information about everything covered in this course. Knowing your way around the Bootstrap documentation will give you a head start when building projects, because the docs contain information and examples on just about everything in Bootstrap. You can see exactly how something works right away, right here in the docs, without having to test it on your site first. So it's always a good idea to keep the documentation handy, because you'll reference it many times throughout the development process. So as I mentioned earlier, Bootstrap provides code for a lot of the common content and layout styles, as well as JavaScript code components for user interface tasks commonly used in website and app projects. So here in the docs sidebar navigation, you'll find links to pages containing download and installation instructions and all the ready-made classes for layout, content, and UI components. So for example, the layout section contains the style options you use to lay out your project and set up your responsive grid system. The content section lists the style options for displaying your content, including CSS resets, typography, images, and more. Now, the bulks of the docs is here in the components section. As you can see, there are dozens of pre-built components, each performing a different UI task. Now, some interactive components like dropdowns, modals, and collapsing elements require JavaScript to work. But the good news is you can skip writing that JavaScript yourself because Bootstrap already provides it. So instead of spending hours building and testing a responsive navigation, a fluid column layout, a button group, or drop-down menu, for example, I can simply browse the docs, find the examples I like, and copy and paste the provided code snippets into my project's HTML file. Bootstrap also comes with a few handy utility classes to help you control the spacing, alignment, colors, even the visibility and accessibility of your content. You can find those here in the Utilities page. For example, it includes classes for padding and margins, responsive floats, and centering content. Now, normally in your CSS, you might include redundant declarations to style your content a certain way. So Bootstrap provides classes for these common repetitive tasks, so you don't have to write them. And you don't have to use or even download all the tools provided by Bootstrap, because it's easily customizable. For instance, some developers use Bootstrap for the predefined design styles and grid so they can quickly build a well-presented site with a rock-solid responsive layout. Some use only the grid for laying out their pages and add their own design with custom CSS,
and some may use it just for the JavaScript components. Now, in most projects, you'll likely use the grid and only a few of these components. In this course, we'll use popular components like the navbar, jumbotron, buttons, forms, and a few others to see how you can build a full-fledged website design and layout with Bootstrap. You can view a showcase of some of the best designed websites using Bootstrap at expo.getbootstrap.com. So be sure to check out a few of these websites to get a better idea of what's possible when using Bootstrap. You'll also find links to useful Bootstrap resources like additional showcases, themes, code snippets, and more over in the resources page.
Coming up in the next video, we'll look at the ways we can download and install Bootstrap, then we'll start building the full stack conf project.